Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Buenos días a todos.
So I heard
Escuché,
that Sandra and Lucero had a great event in Colombia.
Sandra y Lucero tuvieron un evento.
Yes, it was awesome.
I saw lots of pictures. It looks like you guys had a good time.
Yes, it was really nice, and everyone ended up crying, open hearts. It was beautiful,
Corazones
That's
abiertos.
wonderful.
and
Digamos,
everything was smooth.
That's
We
good.
were very lucky.
And I heard
Yes,
you made enough money too, which isn't the point, but it was self-funded as
yeah,
well.
yo escuché que hicieron
yes.
dinero también.
Great.
No, no, pero
Well,
que
we're going to be seeing a lot more programs in South America. Maybe some of you
más en
might
Sudamérica,
want to produce programs in your countries
algunos de
and
ustedes,
invite teachers to come as well. Just saying, it's a possibility.
haremos más profesores, tal es una posibilidad.
We're very proud of you, Sandra and Lucero, and the whole group there, and we're looking forward to more.
Thank you so much.
Sandra, Lucero y allá, así que,
All right, everyone, we're getting close to the end of the class.
ok,
Close.
estamos llegando al final del curso.
Today's class is difficult. I kept telling you other ones were difficult. But today's class is just absorb the information. All right. Just
Consiste en solo
let it flow. All right. And there's kind of a cool ending to the class as well. So just relax. Don't worry. Next week's class is all about the easier part, the compassion part and dedication.
disfruten la clase.
Like I was thinking about this morning, and like this is the part of the chapter.
Esta es la parte del capítulo.
All remember the story of Shantideva giving the first teaching on the guided Bodhisattva's way
De
of
Shantideva dando la primera enseñanza.
life. Cameras, please.
Estilo de vida bodhisattva.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
So this is the part where he's up there teaching. Everyone is kind of excited, right? I mean, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're teaching us something really profound." And then during this chapter is when he begins to float up off the teaching throne, right? We know the story. He starts floating up, and kind of, they don't say he went through the ceiling. I like to say went through an open window. I don't know, but so he's floating up, and those who have already developed like superpowers of hearing could still hear the chapter where other people could not hear it.
Superpoderes de escuchar.
And I was thinking, I wonder what does this really mean? Like, did he really float up? I don't know. Did he really
realmente flotando?
disappear? And then they went to go find him, and they found him elsewhere. And they're like, "Oh, Shantideva, we're so sorry we made fun of you. We're so sorry that we thought all you did was think of three things in your life, which is eating, sleeping, and pooping.
That's
all we thought you were doing." Right.
Comer, dormir, ir al baño.
We're so sorry. And he's like,
Nos lamentamos mucho.
"Okay, you can be sorry, but I'm not coming back." I'm gonna go do something else.
Sí, está bien que estén
But I'm thinking, like, what does this really mean?
así, pero bueno, no voy a volver.
And I think the point of that story,
Pienso que el
did he
punto
float up and away from the teaching throne, and then people couldn't hear him, and only the high bodhisattvas could still hear him?
Lejos de arriba en el trono.
Or is it a metaphor
pudiesen escucharlo.
Only a few people could actually listen to what he was saying,
Quizás
because it was so dang difficult.
Expresar que solo algunas personas pueden escuchar lo que él dice.
I've had experiences where I've been in teachings. This was early on, where I would like fall asleep in class, or
me quedé dormido en clase.
I remember I was serving a Diamond Way event I
Creo
was
que
the
lo había
gopher.
estado siguiendo en
I
un
was running
episodio
around.
del Camino del Diamante.
I made food. I went shopping.
Fui de
I
compra.
got all the things ready. And then they were like, all right, gopher, go away. Come back later, right? You can go outside. Like, you can go sit out by the fire. It's like, oh, okay, that's nice.
Luego,
I mean, I didn't
siéntate
feel
luego.
it wasn't like, oh, I was sad it wasn't there, but it was like, okay, now run along, little grasshopper, right? So I'm sitting outside and
Que siéntate por
by the
ahí
fire, and
alrededor, pero
like
no.
2 hours went by, and then they all came outside, and they were like, did you hear anything? I'm like, hear what? And I'm like, they're like, you didn't hear us come out. I was like, what are you talking about?
Me
Like,
preguntaron,
literally, I was just like,
¿escuchaste algo?
lost consciousness.
Dije, ¿qué cosa?
Okay. And I just fell asleep, and I, didn't hear or see anything.
No escuché ni bien.
Maybe that's kind of the experience. Like, Maria's laying on the couch. She'll probably fall asleep in class.
Ese es el tipo de experiencia.
At least
Ese
she has
fue
her own couch.
la experiencia de algunos se quedan dormidos.
But who knows, right? It's like,
¿Quién
did
sabe?
he really do anything? I mean, that's kind of the point.
¿Él realmente hizo algo?
Maybe. The
Quizás.
people who were there saw something. The people who couldn't hear anything saw something.
Las personas
Maybe
que
the point is that we hear the teachings we're ready to hear.
quieren
The
algo,
teachings we are not ready to hear. Well, we fall asleep, right? Or we tune out, or the internet goes out.
parado para escuchar, no se va a quedar dormido.
Right.
Bueno,
My
¿cierto?
favorite thing is, like, when a teacher is teaching emptiness, something weird happens in the room. Like, something goes sideways.
Cuando un profesor enseña la vacuidad, algo raro,
Your attention gets distracted elsewhere.
la atención se distrae
And
usualmente
you think, oh,
hacia
that's
otro.
the next shiny object, right? And
Y
basically
dice,
what's
"Oh,
happening
y
is
ese sujeto
your
es
mind's like, no, 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 no. I'm not, no, that's not how things are.
quizás tu mente
Puts
diría,
up a fight,
no, no,
puts up
no, no, no,
resistance.
este no es, poniendo cierta
So
resistencia.
watch your battles today. Watch your battles all the time around emptiness,
Así que observa tus batallas
and just stick with it.
con la vacuidad todo el
And
tiempo.
there's a really kind of cool, as I said, there's a cool ending here in
Hay
the class.
un grandioso final para esta clase, como les dije.
All right. So here we go. So
Aquí
there's many proofs of emptiness, and we
Hay
go through these all the time.
muchas pruebas sobre la
We've spent a
de
lot
la
of time on the proof of one and many.
prueba de uno y
Last
mucho.
week we learned about the proof of diamond, the sliver of diamond.
La última semana vimos la prueba del
And then there's another proof that we're going to learn today, which is very Nagarjuna.
de,
It's very
de la salvación del diamante o
it's
liberación.
slippery, right?
También
And so
Nagarjuna
I
tiene
invite you to learn a bit about it, and then just let it stew inside of you, like you're cooking along.
Así que estudiarlas y luego déjenlas
Like you're cooking a soup on the
cocinarse
stove, and you have to leave it there for 6 hours, so all the flavors of all the vegetables and everything go into
todos los sabores,
soup.
todos los vegetales en su mente
So
irán
that's kind of
cuajando.
what this proof is about. You're like, what are you talking about?
Esto es sobre lo que las pruebas se trata.
Emptiness.
¿De qué se trata?
Why are we having a hard time talking about it?
Vacuidad.
Because emptiness isn't something.
¿Por qué estamos hablando de esto? Porque la vacuidad no
What
es
I mean is that we tend to talk about emptiness as everything has emptiness.
La vacuidad
Everything, like every object, like
todo,
has
todo
some emptiness.
tiene emptiness,
Right?
todo tiene vacuidad.
What is
Por
the
ejemplo, el
emptiness of
teléfono
this
tiene
object,
vacuidad.
right? Or this
La vacuidad de este
cup
objeto,
of
la vacuidad de este
water
vaso con agua o con jugo.
fruit drink, right? There's some emptiness here, right?
Hay
There's
vacuidad
emptiness
aquí.
of the pen, which we talk about.
Y la vacuidad del lápiz.
Normally we talk about it We
Normalmente
talk about it in different ways, but we talk about it as
hablamos
a
de aquello.
positive sense in this. And what I mean by positive is
Normalmente
that something
hablamos
is there,
de
right?
un modo
Oh, it's a
distinto,
pen.
que por ejemplo
Oh, it's the angry boss. Oh, it's an
es-
emotion.
o es una emoción.
And you say, oh, well, is it an emotion? Is it a pen from its own side? Right? Is it a pen by itself?
Una emoción, un lápiz
No,
desde
it's
su
not a
propio
pen by
lado.
itself. If you
No,
put on these
no
glasses, you like it's like you have it memorized, right? You're just like in your mind, you're like, no, when Tim holds
memorizarlo.
up a pen, a dog sees a chew toy. I get it. I understand emptiness.
Tim
Like,
observa
yes,
un lápiz y un perro es
good
un
job.
juguete para
Right?
morder.
And we stick there, we stay there because it's easier.
Nos
And
quedamos ahí.
it's a doorway in. Hi, Jackie. Good
Es una
morning.
puerta de entrada.
It's a doorway into emptiness.
Es una puerta de entrada a la
If I
vacuidad.
see it as a pen and a dog sees it validly as a chew toy, then we go, okay, there's something
Un
going
lápiz
on
y
here
un
that's not
perro es un juguete
quite right.
para marcar válidamente.
Like I look at all these various objects that I have around the house, around my world.
Podemos ver todos los objetos
And
que
if
están.
the pen is true, right? If it's
Pero
true,
el lápiz es
let's just
cierto.
pretend it is. Then you know, okay, I'm looking at every single thing in the world from that point of view. Meaning,
Entonces, estoy
I can
viendo
point to anything in this house,
cada una de las cosas del
including
mundo.
me.
Debería verla con
Say,
ese punto.
if the pen is true, if it's
Viendo
true
con-
that
Si es
there is
verdad,
no pen there by itself,
no hay un lápiz allá
that
afuera
means,
de,
oh, I'm there interacting with it, the thing, the object,
como yo cuando yo estoy interactuando con el
because
objeto, la cosa.
dogs. Like that's the proof. Because dogs.
Por los
Right?
perros. Esa es la prueba.
Because dogs see it differently. They
Porque
look at the same
Sí.
parts. They look at
Es
the
la misma
same
parte,
colors and the same shapes.
los mismos colores, las
And they
mismas
go, oh,
sombras,
that's a
matices,
thing for me to put in my mouth and carry around and wag my tail.
y piensa, eso es algo
And
para
then
jugar,
it
moverme
forces
de
you
aquí
to
para
start
allá y
looking
moverme
at
para.
everything around you.
Y entonces, la
Take
forma
a
en
moment, everyone, look around you.
están a tu alrededor,
Do
tómate un
you
momento,
then look at the pillow or the flowers or the
Por ejemplo.
candle or the water jug,
esquines,
the
las
paper towels,
flores,
and you go,
es,
pet and chew toy, right?
y
It's a
tú
fun exercise, right?
puedes decir,
Well, who would
la-
see a
la
roll of paper
juguete
towels
para
differently?
marcar. Todas las cosas
They're
parecen
just
diferentes.
paper towels waiting to absorb Tim's mess after dinner. That's what a paper towel does, right? Or just is there someone else? Is there another possibility? And we say, oh, well, that's,
La función de absorber toda la suciedad de
that's
ti
emptiness.
durante la cena.
There are other possibilities.
Eso. Pero existen otras posibilidades, eso es la vacuidad.
But as we get moving further and further along, in which we learned
Ujú.
last week,
A
is
medida
that
que nos movamos más y más allá,
emptiness,
como vimos la semana
we
pasada,
ask the
la
to
vacuidad,
get to emptiness, we have to
para
go through
la
a
vacuidad,
negation. That's what we called the
que
gotcha last week. You have
realizar
to
una
negate
negación.
something,
Tienes que negar
something
algo,
that you thought was there,
algo que tú
but it
pensabas que
isn't
estaba
there.
allí, pero que no está allí.
Like you have to go through the wrong in
Tienes
order to get to the
que
right.
lo incorrecto en orden o para llegar
Because you
al orden.
can't get to emptiness any other way.
Entonces, no puedes llegar a la vacuidad de otra
You're
manera.
like, well, in what? So then, this is what I was thinking about this morning because I was trying to figure out how to like.
Esto es sobre lo que estaba pensando esta
I
mañana,
honestly went to bed last
tratando
night being
de-
like, I have no idea how I'm going to teach this, and that's when I was like, okay, just go sleep, let the brain work on it overnight.
y mi cerebro me
I was
decía,
also avoiding
"Ándate a
looking
dormir",
at the news last
No,
night. I was,
pero
I didn't want. I
estaba la
was
noche pasada, estaba
not
viendo las
interested.
noticias y no estaba realmente interesado.
But like, how do we trick ourselves, or what is the process? Let's not say trick. What's the process to
¿Cuál
actually
es el
get this?
proceso para
Like,
realmente
get it, right? I understand emptiness,
obtener esto, decir,
right? Because every time
no,
you think
logré
even if you say the words, I
entendido.
understand emptiness, you're already wrong.
Cuando ustedes piensen que
Sorry.
están entendiendo la vacuidad, probablemente estén equivocados.
But
Lo siento.
we use these steps along the way
Entonces
to
utilizamos
open up
estos
the
pasos
door
a lo largo
into a
de
deeper area.
para abrir
This is we're
cada
in
vez
some of
más
the deepest
áreas
areas
más
now. That's the
profundas.
whole point of this introduction. We're
Este es todo
in
el objetivo
the
de esta
deep end,
introducción.
right? And if at any moment you're like, I don't understand, okay,
Si tú en
good.
un
Just
momento
say
dices,
pen chu
no
toy.
entiendo,
You're doing
entonces
fine.
solo di
You're doing better than
lápiz,
almost everyone
juguete
else in
para
the world.
mascar y todo estará bien.
All right. You know, and I think oftentimes we get really, I used to get this way. I get really frustrated. I'm like,
Menudo
I don't
me
understand
sentía
this.
realmente frustrado.
But if I understood this, you know,
Porque
there's this goal, like, and we get really obsessed with the goal. I want to see emptiness directly. I want to see it. I want to do it, right?
de la
We keep
meta.
talking about
¿Sí?
it, right?
Quiero ver la vacuidad,
So we get
percibir
kind of
algo
excited about
directamente.
this experience.
Entonces estaba muy emocionado
And
sobre
then we
esta
hear depressing news, right? And depressing news, as in Sutra, pay
respuestas de
attention to my words. In
las
Sutra,
noticias positivas.
an Arya appears maybe once every 500 years.
En los sutras dice que los Aryas aparecen quizás una vez
Someone
cada
who
15.
sees emptiness directly
Entonces ver la vacuidad directamente.
typically appears about every 500 years.
Típicamente sucede cada 500 años.
So that's actually kind of depressing.
Eso
There's
es
59 of us here
un poco
listening,
depresivo.
being like, I'm going to be the one.
Quizá alguno
And
piensa,
statistically
aquí
speaking,
de
none
las
of us will be the one
personas presentes,
right now.
ya se ve el elegido, el
But
único.
notice, I want you to notice the words that in Sutra, it's every 500 years.
Pero quiero que sepan que en los sutras es cada 500
Now,
años.
use your logic on that statement, and then you can think there's different ways of thinking about it.
Si usan la lógica sobre ese
But it's not as
relación,
hopeless
hay
as it
distintas
sounds.
maneras de pensar en ello, pero
Okay. It's not hopeless actually at all.
no es como muy
And I
esperanzador.
know many of you are struggling with this. You're struggling with trying to understand this. You're struggling with how does this apply in my life?
Realmente luchando para poder entender
How
esto.
is this, you know, how am I ever going to get there?
Entonces, ¿cómo vamos a llegar
And
ahí?
then there's like, and then all of our emotions show up, you know,
Todas las emociones se
and
manifiestan.
this is where you work, right? You're like, okay, well, why did I just get upset about that?
Y te preguntas, ¿por
Why did I
qué
just beat
me
myself
enojé
up
por eso?
because I haven't seen emptiness directly yet?
¿Por qué estoy molesto? Porque no he
I don't know
percibido
about
la
you.
realidad con
I see lots of smiles.
si ustedes. Veo muchas
You know,
sonrisas.
I haven't done it. I haven't achieved the goals yet.
No he
Not there
alcanzado
yet,
las metas. No he alcanzado las metas
What's
aún.
wrong with what I'm saying?
¿Cuál es el problema
Where
con
the
lo que
hell is there?
qué diablos sucede
You
o
think
está
there's
aquí?
some goal out there on its own to
¿Tú
get to.
piensas que hay
You
una
think seeing emptiness
meta
directly is
ahí
something that's
afuera
there by itself.
para lograrla? ¿Piensas que
And it's not.
percibir directamente la vacuidad es
Even the
algo que tiene
experience
naturaleza propia? Pero no.
of the absence of something coming from its own side
Incluso la
is
experiencia de la ausencia de
has
algo
emptiness
desde
too.
su propio lado también tiene su propia vacuidad.
You think there's a goal. You think if you walk down you walk down the hallway and you go and sit in meditation, that you're going to achieve something.
Piensa que si haces ciertas meditaciones y
And
haces
you're like, what?
prácticas,
And
vas a alcanzar o
if you
lograr
think you're
algo.
going to sit down in meditation and see emptiness directly, you're already wrong.
Si piensas que vas a
But
sentarte y ver la vacuidad
that's the
directamente,
only way we can think.
está equivocado,
Stage.
pero es la única manera en la que podemos
So every
pensar
time
en
we
este estadio.
start talking about emptiness, we always,
Así que a medida que
how do I say it? We always
continuamos
butt up
hablando
against
sobre la vacuidad,
the
siempre
limit
es
of
contra
our understanding. We
el límite
always
de nuestro
push
entendimiento.
up against that
Siempre
place
estamos
of
empujando ese límite.
I can't go any farther.
No
It's
podemos
not
ir más
possible to go any
lejos.
farther
No es posible
because
aún
the words that we're
ir
using
más
and the
lejos.
concepts we're using are
Porque las palabras y los conceptos que estamos utilizando
not there from their own side either.
no están ahí desde su propio lado tampoco.
So today's proof is about
Así que la prueba de hoy es
how
sobre
do
cómo,
why is it that things can't grow?
cómo las cosas
Why
pueden
is it something can't become something else?
eh, ¿por qué algo se puede volver otra cosa?
Yes, you know. So if you're worried about, you know, deep
Si te
realizations,
preocupa,
which
si te preocupas
thank you,
por
Siri. Did you guys hear Siri? I don't know. She announced something to me.
escuchar a Siri,
Um,
ella tenía algo que decirme.
what Siri said to me was, if you would like to see results,
Que Siri me había dicho, sí, si te gustaría ver
right?
resultados, ¿cierto?
So no, don't send that text message.
No envíes ese mensaje de texto.
No, shut up. Anyway. Okay.
No, no,
Anyhow, so yeah, that's
cállate.
what happens, right? I'm having a conversation with nobody, right? They're over there.
Estás
Right.
teniendo una
So
conversación con nadie.
my AI device,
Mi
yeah, very weird thing, Yasheng. My AI device
dispositivo
said,
de
I'm not going to say
AI,
her name because then she'll keep talking again.
inteligencia artificial,
You know, said, if you want to see the results,
o si tú quieres,
and I was like, all right, great. Right. How do you see, the question is, how do you even see results? How are results possible from causes? That's the question we have today.
resultados. ¿Cómo resultados son posibles de
And the
causas?
question is,
La pregunta es,
the proof basically says at the end, how
la
do
prueba
things
dice
that
finalmente
exist or don't exist ever grow?
que las cosas
How
que
does something become something else?
existen nunca crecen. ¿Cómo algo se convierte en algo más?
So I suggest in this section of today's class, getting out your paper and
Quiero en esta
pencil, or
sección de
get out your note
esta sección de la clase
app on your phone
que
and just
tomen
type
un
down the
lápiz, un
things you
papel
hear.
o su
Okay.
teléfono
And then just look at them. Like
y anoten
look
las
at
cosas.
them over and over again and be like, what the hell
Obsérvenlas,
was Tim talking about? Because what's interesting about studying emptiness
repásenlas y
is that
digan,
you may have a deep experience in class and get it, and you go outside and then you don't get it. You're like,
eh,
what the fuck did
denle
Tim just
vueltas
say?
y
What did I
pregúntense,
remember? Like
¿qué
you
querrá
forgot
decirte?
it,
Porque
and then
puede que
you're like,
estén en
it
la
just
clase y después
vanishes,
salgan afuera y no lo
right?
entiendan con
Does anyone have that
la
experience?
experiencia del mundo.
Manjayan does. You know, it's just like it's just
Es
you just walk
como
out and you're like, what the? And then all of a sudden you get pissed off at something or you get upset.
vas afuera y dices,
Basically,
"Sí",
what it is, you want something.
te enojas por
You
algo,
want something to start, you want something to stop, and then you forget, which is part of today's argument. Right. But the idea is that you
pero la idea
start like putting
es
the
colocar
limits
límites
of understanding. You put those edges and you start putting them in a pressure cooker,
de
right?
tu entendimiento y lo
And you
pongas en
start
una olla de
cooking.
presión.
And
Lo
what
empiezas
happens when you put these ideas into a pressure cooker?
y lo que sucede cuando pones estas ideas en
Every
una olla
single
es
wrong
que
idea comes up and starts fighting.
cada idea
Your emotions
equivocada
get high. You start
surge
getting upset.
y
You
comienza
start
a
thinking that,
luchar.
oh, I'm a worse person than I was beforehand. I'm never going to get this.
Soy
And
peor
what
persona de
happens is
como
people
era
give up
antes,
at that
nunca voy a
point.
lograrlo, cosas
They
así.
give up their Dharma practice at this point
Entonces hay muchas personas que se dan
because it
por
just got
vencidas en su
difficult.
Dharma práctica, por
And it got difficult not for
Dharma
one day,
porque
not
lo
for 2 days,
encuentran
maybe
demasiado
a
difícil.
week, maybe a couple months. And then they give up. But they're in the pressure
Lo
cooker.
intentan una semana o unos
Just
meses y
let it,
después se
just
rinden.
keep it going. Like eventually
Pero lo que hay
the
que
food
hacer es
gets
seguir,
cooked, right? You
continuar.
get cooked, right?
Y
Your
eventualmente
understanding
lo
gets cooked.
lograrás, lo entenderás.
So this is where we're going. We're going to the edges of our understanding. So if you don't understand, Great,
Vamos,
you're in the right place. Because if
a
you
través de
understood, why the hell would you be here?
pasos, desafíos de
Why
entendimiento.
would you be coming to something if you didn't understand it? If you already understood it, why would you be going to listen to someone explain something you already
Y
understood?
para eso estamos acá, o sea, si ya lo entendiéramos, no estaríamos en una clase tratando de entenderlo.
So it's good that you don't understand.
Así que es bueno no entenderlo.
And Kathy said something interesting. She's experienced a lot of fears.
Katy dice algo interesante, he
Yes, good.
experimentado muchos miedos. Sí, bien.
It's not easy as a teacher to like celebrate when someone comes to you and said, I'm experiencing a lot of fears right now.
No es fácil para un
Like,
profesor decirle
kind of have to like
que
give the
lo
person a hug, but as you hug them, you're like,
dé un abrazo
you
a
know,
los
I'm
niños.
supporting you, but good job, right?
Te estoy soportando,
You
te
know,
estoy
it's a great, it's a difficult
estoy
place to
contigo.
be, right? And it's emotionally
Es un
difficult. And
gran
I'm not making jokes
lugar para
about it
estar.
either, you know,
Emocionalmente
because
difícil,
it's a deep place to be and it's a deep place to operate from.
porque hay lugares más
So,
profundos desde lo que
and that's why you need friends.
estar y
That's
desde
why
los
you
que
need other
operar.
friends who can be there with you.
Ahí
Because
tú
all types of weird stuff happens.
porque todo
Emotions that you thought you dealt with, experiences you thought
los
were over,
abrazos,
will
las
start
emociones
appearing. And this is what we don't talk about in DCI very often.
comienzan
Right?
a
Just
aparecer.
plant the
Esto es
seed.
de lo que no hablamos en DCI muy a menudo.
It's not what they say, but
Solo
literally
planto.
that's the answer for every question. Plant the seed. Okay, great. Plant the seed. Wonderful. But I'm having a deep emotional
Esa es la
experience
respuesta
right
para
now
casi cada pregunta.
that
Planta la
I know
semilla.
is coming from a past seed, and I know
Sé que viene de
that I
una
can get
semilla
through this,
pasada.
but it's a very
Que
real
pueda
experience, and it is.
pasar a través de esto, pero es una experiencia muy
It
real.
can get intense.
Se puede volver intensa.
But my advice is in the
Pero
intensity,
mi consejo es que
know that you're being cooked.
notes que está siendo
And
cocinado.
what happens to a lot of people in these extended periods, like you can have short periods, but
Pasa
when you
muchas
have
personas
extended
en este
periods,
periodo extendido.
I call them spiritual crisis,
Lo llamo crisis espirituales.
that a lot of people eventually give up,
Muchas personas eventualmente
and
se rinden.
then everything gets better afterwards. They're like, oh, that
Todo
was the, you know,
se vuelve
that was
mejor
the,
después de eso.
like, and then there's this relief, right? And then all your good seeds come rushing out.
Y luego tus buenas
And you
semillas
think,
empiezan a salir
well,
y a crecer
these practices didn't help me, but look at all these good things. And then you forget about it.
y uno dice, esta práctica
Or
me está ayudando.
you can just let it, you know, keep cooking you.
O
Right?
puedes dejar que se siga cocinando.
This is a bad example.
Es un buen ejemplo.
Right? I mean, think of it like when a lot of us used to eat
Piensen en ellos
beef,
como
right? And I'm not thinking it's not a problem if you're not a vegetarian, but a lot of us are vegetarians, right?
muchos de
When
nosotros
you put
comíamos carne, pero
beef
muchos de
on
nosotros
on
somos
the
vegetarianos.
grill, right? The outside gets hot, but the inside's still cold, right?
El interior está
The
caliente, pero
temperature
el
of the
exterior está
meat
frío. La temperatura
is
de la carne es
lower inside than it is outside.
más baja
But the
dentro,
temperature outside is the temperature outside is the same temperature always,
pero la temperatura
right?
fuera, la
When
misma
you're
temperatura.
cooking and grilling, the temperature outside is always the same. It's
Cuando estás cocinando, la temperatura exterior es
it's
siempre
fucking
la misma.
hot, right?
Muy,
The
muy,
grill
muy
is hot.
frío.
It's the same temperature outside. You don't put your hand on the grill, right? It's hot.
La
You put the
temperatura,
meat on it or whatever you're grilling, your veggie burger, but you have to leave it there for a long time for the temperature to get into
por ejemplo, en
the
un
middle,
horno,
right?
tienes que
And that's why
esperar
some people
para que
like,
la temperatura llegue al medio, ¿no?
you know, they like their meat rare or medium
Una vez
rare
una
or
hamburguesa
medium
vegetariana. Y
or
hay
medium
distintas
well
personas
or
que piensan
completely well
distinto,
done or char
tipo,
boiled
que te piden
burnt,
tres
right?
cuartos
Some people
completamente
like it
cocido,
burnt, right? You know, but it takes a long time for it to cook all the way through.
pero toma bastante tiempo que
Is
se
that a
cosa
Pittsburghism?
en todos los niveles de profundidad.
Um, So, you know, it's uncomfortable to be on the grill. Okay. It's hot. It's uncomfortable to be there. But slowly you're cooking yourself until you're well done, right? Until, you know, until
Es
you've
incómodo
burned
estar ahí.
out all of those negative seeds or the possibility for those negative seeds to ripen.
Finalmente
So our
se
question really becomes here,
van
what is,
desapareciendo todas esas semillas negativas.
how is it that things don't grow?
Entonces la pregunta que surge es cómo las cosas no
A thing
crecen,
that does or does not exist, how could it ever grow in the first place?
cómo las cosas pueden crecer en primer
So
lugar.
there's 5 different conditions for this.
Entonces hay 5 distintas condiciones para
The
esto.
main idea. So if you understand this idea, you can apply it to everything else.
La idea principal es, si tú entiendes esta idea, la puedes aplicar a todo lo demás.
If things existed by themselves,
Si las
that
cosas
did not
existen
exist
en sí
independent,
mismas, si no existen en dependencia,
and this is the easier way to get at it. If things existed by themselves,
si las cosas
meaning
existen
on their own, from
desde
their
su
own side,
lado,
with their own nature,
desde su
these
propio
are
lado,
all
propia
synonyms,
naturaleza,
okay? Like a thesaurus, like we're using different words to say to point
una
towards the same
autoexistencia.
thing, same thing. The thing that we deny, actually.
La cosa que nosotros negamos,
If
de hecho,
things existed out there by themselves, on their own,
si las cosas
not
existen allá
independence,
afuera, no dependientemente,
not independence on
desde su
anything,
propio lado,
then
si
what
no
would
depende de
be,
nada,
would there ever be a need for a cause?
¿alguna vez existiría una necesidad de una causa?
Okay, this is the main question. This is first line of the reading. Okay.
Esta es
Wow.
la pregunta
Second
principal.
paragraph.
La primera línea, la segundo párrafo de la lectura.
Okay. So think about it. If something existed by itself from its own side, without being independent on anything else, which
¿Qué es
is
lo que
what
quiere
you're
desde su
saying,
propio lado,
the
sin
thing,
ser dependiente de algo
the
más?
object, the
El objeto,
emotion,
la
the
emoción,
phone, the pen, whatever,
lápiz,
whatever
lápiz,
you're,
lo que
the
sea que,
stoplight you're at, right? Whatever. Okay.
lo que sea.
If that were true, why would you need a cause?
Si eso
Why
fuera,
would it have to grow in the first
¿qué
place?
necesitaría una causa? Porque necesitaría crecer en primer lugar.
Right? Why would you need a cause? It's already there.
¿Por qué necesitas una causa si está ahí
Now your
ahora?
mind wants to argue with me. Yeah, Tim, but it
Ya
started
está
off,
ahí.
it was little parts and people put it together. Or,
Ok, alguien
oh
podría
yeah, that
comentar,
flower yesterday was,
tiene distintas
I
partes.
could watch it.
Las
It came out of the
personas,
ground and then it was a sprout and then
una
it was
flor
a
que
couple
estaba
of
ahí
leaves.
ayer,
And then
partió de
it
un
got
brote y después
taller and then
la regamos y creció.
there was a bud and then one day the bud opened and it became a rose and I
Primero era
watched it happen.
un brote y
I
después
watched it grow.
creció. Debió crecer.
Yes, you did. But the way that you were perceiving each of those moments
Sí, pero la forma en la que
was
percibes
not a moment where you were
esos
perceiving
momentos
any growth and
no
you
es,
just contradicted yourself
en
because you
realidad
said,
percibir el
oh, there
crecimiento
was a sprout
y solamente te
and
contradices.
then there was a longer sprout and then there was a leaf and then there was a
Hay
bud
un
and
brote,
there was a flower,
después dice hay una flor.
right? Why did you contradict yourself?
¿Por qué te contradices a ti mismo?
Here's the second point.
Ahí está el segundo punto.
Where did the bud go?
¿Dónde fue el brote?
Oh, Tim, it became a flower. I'm looking at a pot of flowers, or the pot of roses, actually.
Estoy viendo unas flores, como unas rosas, de hecho.
If the bud became a flower, when did it become a flower?
Se volvió una flor.
You say,
¿Cuándo
oh,
se
well,
volvió?
Tim, it opened up. The sun rose and then it opened up.
Y puedes decir,
Well, that sounds reasonable.
se abrió,
But
bueno, salió
when
el sol,
did the
se abrió.
bud become a flower?
Parece razonable. Pero
Find me
¿cuándo
the moment
El brote se
when the
volvió una
bud
flor.
opened up and became a flower.
Cuando se abrió y se volvió una flor. Ese preciso
And you say,
momento.
well,
Y
eventually you get
bueno,
into the argument and you're like, and you've all
bueno,
done this before, but it's when
es
it did that moment,
cuando
when did it stop being a bud and become a flower? How did the flower start growing?
fue ese momento. Cuando la
And you say,
flor
well,
crece.
and then you try to find that moment when it converted,
Si
like it
tratas
was
de
one thing and it became another,
encontrar ese momento,
right?
que una cosa
One moment
y otra cosa.
it was a bud that was growing and then it
Que
stopped and
como
then it became a flower.
comenzó
Okay,
a
when did
crecer
that
y
happen?
luego se detuvo y se volvió
When
una
did you
flor.
find it, Maria? When did you find it? Tell me. When did it change?
¿Eh? ¿Dónde lo encuentras? Dime, María.
You can't find it.
¿Cuándo
And the
cambió?
point is you
No
can't
puedes
find
encontrarlo.
that moment.
El punto es que no puedes encontrar ese momento.
You say, well, there had to have been a moment. Okay, there had to have been a moment. I agree with that.
Debió
So
haber
there
existido
was
ese
a
momento.
moment when the
Ok,
bud
estamos de
became
acuerdo.
a flower. Yes.
Hubo un momento
So
en que el brote se
did
convirtió en
they
flor.
exist
Sí.
at the same time?
Existieron al mismo
Well, yeah, they
tiempo.
turned into each other. There was a moment when the bud became the flower. So they touched each other. Yes.
Entonces hay un momento en que se tocaron,
Okay.
que el brote se convirtió en la
That's
flor.
impossible.
Ok, eso es imposible,
A bud and a flower cannot exist at the same time.
porque el brote y la flor no pueden existir al mismo tiempo.
If they were touching each other, that means they are each other.
Si se tocasen,
Okay. Logically,
significa
you have to
que
think through
son
this. You have to
la
think through
otra
this.
cosa.
If they were touching each other, if the bud of the flower, the bud, the moment that it became a flower,
Por ejemplo, el
there
brote
had to
del
have been a moment where there was a transition.
momento en que se convirtió en flor,
And if
debió
they
haber
were
una
touching each
transición.
other, how about here's my little beads, okay?
Por ejemplo,
One
en
bead,
este,
this is like what we think,
no
right?
mala.
Here's the bud, here's the flower,
Aquí está el brote, aquí está la
right?
flor.
There has to be a moment where this boop, became that. This dot becomes this one.
Debió
see?
existir un momento en que este punto se volvió este
And they
otro.
touch, right?
Se
They are
tocaron.
touching, right?
Se están tocando, ¿cierto?
Dee, 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 dee. You can hear it, right? They touch. Okay. But if they existed at the same time,
Pero
it makes no freaking sense.
que existan al mismo tiempo no hace ningún
Because how
sentido.
do you have a bud and a flower at the same time?
Porque ¿cómo pueden existir el brote y la flor al mismo tiempo?
Your mind wants to say they do.
Tu mente quiere decir que sí,
But if they were touching each other, then they're the same thing.
pero si se tocan, entonces son la misma cosa.
The two things have to exist at the same time if they're touching each other, like these two beads. Dee, 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 dee,
Dos
right?
cosas deben
They touch
existir
each
al
other.
mismo tiempo si
The
se
two of
tocan.
them are together. So there's, well, is there one thing? It's a flower and a bud flower, a flower bud. In this moment, there must be a transition state. Okay,
Flor.
fine. There's a transition state. Here
Ok,
we go.
ok. Vimos
Now we got three.
punto de transición.
Here's the bud.
Aquí está el brote,
Here's the transition state.
aquí
And
está
here's the
el
flower. Okay.
estado de transición y aquí está la flor.
Ready? Here comes the bud. Dee, 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 dee. And then it touches the transition state and becomes something else.
Así
It
que
becomes
toca
the
el
bud
momento de
flower.
transición y se vuelve
I don't know
algo
how you would do that in your language. Good luck.
broad flor.
Now you still have the same stupid problem.
Ahora tenemos el
You've
mismo
created
problema.
another entity that the bud touches the bud flower. Now you said, but no, Tim, it's between the bud and the flower. Now you have three things touching each other.
Entre el brote y la flor. Ahora tenemos
You
tres
said, well,
cosas.
no, the first thing happens, it becomes a bud flower, and then the bud falls away, and then the bud flower touches flower, and then the flower moves away.
Bueno, y tenemos el brote flor y tocando la flor y ahora
And you go, oh, okay, well, actually, I need another object. I need two more objects in between there because the bud flower has a starting and a stopping. Here's the left side, here's the right side. right?
Es como un
Now you've created
comenzar
3
y un detener,
objects for your 5.
el lado izquierdo y el lado
Okay.
derecho.
You think something is going on, but something's not going on.
¿Tú piensas que algo está
Does the bud
sucediendo?
become a flower? Yes.
El brote se volvió
But
flor,
not the
sí,
way you thought it did.
pero no es la
Okay.
forma en que tú pensaste que lo hizo.
And so something is going on in our minds that
Entonces,
is
está
thinking that things are growing by themselves.
sucediendo en nuestra mente que piensan que las cosas
And then
están
we can use all of these
sucediendo por sí mismas.
proofs to say, well,
Y podemos
actually,
utilizar
there's
todas
something
las
wrong with that. There's something wrong with the way I'm perceiving that.
pruebas para decir, ok, de hecho hay algo malo,
And then any normal person is going to be like,
equivocado
yeah,
en la
Tim,
forma
but
en que percibo las cosas.
the seed became the flower. Yeah, it did. It
La
became a
semilla se
flower.
volvió una
I'm
flor.
not denying that.
Sí,
I'm denying how it
estoy
became a
negando
flower.
eso.
Where did the seed go? You put the seed in the ground and now you got a rose bush.
Semilla.
Where's
Tú
the
pones
seed?
semilla
It
en
became a rose
suelo
bush.
y
So the
vuelve
rose
un...
bush was in the seed? The rose
Entonces,
bush is the seed?
el-
No,
la
it turned
semilla
into it.
es la
Oh,
semilla,
okay.
es
So
el,
one
el
caused
árbol.
the other. Yes.
El
Okay,
árbol
great.
viene de la
Well,
semilla,
when did it become a rose bush?
causa el otro. Pero cuando
Well,
causó,
the cause
se
created the
convierte
effect.
la semilla en el
Yes.
árbol.
But did they touch each other? Well,
Pero
they
se
had
toca,
to. Okay, if they touch each other,
no
then they're
tienen
the
que
same
hacerlo.
thing. So the
Pero
rose
si
bush
se
and the
toca,
seed are the same
entonces
thing.
son la misma cosa.
Then if they're the same thing, then you have 2 things that are one, and that makes no sense. Okay.
Son la misma cosa, tenemos dos
And you
cosas,
do this all
son
day
la misma
long.
cosa y no
This
hace
is the thing
sentido.
that's going on. All day long, you do this. All day long, you're doing this.
A lo largo de
And
todo
that's
el
why you're
día.
not seeing emptiness directly.
Y así
Okay. Because you think that something became something
es porque no podemos ver la
on
vacuidad,
its own.
directamente la vacuidad, porque pensamos que las otras cosas
Now,
son otras cosas. O sea, no son lo que
did
son.
the seed turn into a flower? Of course it did. But
No
the
la
way that it does it is not the way you
del
perceive that it
modo que
happens.
debiésemos ver.
And that's the trick. You have to get yourself behind your thinking. You got to get yourself behind your perceptions.
Ir más allá de tus percepciones, tienes que ir con tu pensamiento más allá.
Because that rose bush, that seed, is just like the pen. Somebody else could be saying
Semilla
something
de
else.
arbusto es como el lápiz. Te lo puedes aplicar a todas las cosas.
So there's a great line here, and I've been saying it in different ways.
Así que hay una gran línea acá,
Basically saying that
de
causes
diferentes,
cannot
de
make
diferentes
anything
maneras.
grow.
Nada puede hacer
So
algo crecer,
anytime the cause is present,
la
no
causa.
result ever exists.
Cada vez que tienes una causa presente,
Okay.
el resultado aún no existe.
And so you have to kind of just sit in meditation and think through all of these things.
Y debes sentarte en meditación y pensar todas estas cosas.
So what is it that we're trying to deny?
Entonces, ¿cuál es la cosa que estamos tratando de negar?
Okay. What we're trying to say is something which could never exist can't grow.
Estamos tratando de decir que algo que no
And when we say this, we have to be very
puede
careful
existir.
because a lot of people say, well, Tim just told me that
Debemos ser
nothing
cuidadosos.
exists and nothing can grow. So there's nothing out there. There's no
Alguien podría
world.
decir,
Wrong.
¿quién me
Wrong,
dijo
wrong,
que
wrong. It's
nada
not what I'm
puede
saying.
existir? Entonces, nada de lo que está allá afuera
What
existe.
we're
No es
saying
lo que
is
quiero
that
decir.
you're
Lo que trato de
denying
decir es que tú estás
the thing
negando
that you thought was there, which is not there, could ever
la
grow.
cosa que está
So
allí.
in that way, the thing doesn't exist. The pen doesn't exist.
Está allí, no
Well,
puede
Tim, what do you mean? There's a freaking pen there. Yes, there's a pen there, but the way it exists is incorrect. The thing that you thought was there is
que
not
está
there,
allí, pero no de
doesn't
la forma en que
exist.
pensabas.
The thing which you thought was there doesn't exist. So
La
that
cosa
thing
que tú
can't grow.
pensabas que está allí no existe.
You gotta get your mind into that.
No existe
Oh,
de la manera en
what
que
about my own mind? What about me, Tim?
que sobre mi propia
Is
mente,
there a
sobre
Tim
mí.
there who is not there from his own side? And could that
Hay
Tim
un
ever
Tim
grow?
ahí que no
No.
está allí desde su propio lado.
Apply that to yourself, and then you'll see emptiness directly.
Ok, aplícalo a ti mismo
But it's difficult.
y puedes ver la vacuidad directamente.
So let me go through these very quickly.
Vayamos a través de esto muy rápido.
So make sure I don't mess it up. So we did, so there's the proof that this is, I'm going to be very obvious in this class what homework I'm on. Usually I don't.
Voy a ser muy
Usually I
obvio
make
en
you
esta
figure out
clase
which
con
homework
las
question we're doing.
tareas.
I'm going
Usualmente
to be
no pasa.
obvious about this one because it's better.
Pero aquí
Know
voy a
where you
hacerlo.
are, write it down, and just meditate on it.
Que es bueno saber dónde
So the
estás.
question, first question
No
is,
meditar en eso.
the proof that refutes that neither a thing which does or does not exist could ever grow.
La prueba
Right.
de
A
que
thing that does or does not exist could ever grow. So there's
existe o no
4
existe
ways
podría crecer alguna vez. Entonces
that
hay
this happens.
4
First,
maneras en las que esto
consider
puede.
all the things that are results.
Considera
There's your
cosas
proof.
que tienen
Okay.
resultados.
They
Considera.
don't grow in an ultimate way
No crecen en un sentido
for
último.
4 reasons.
Por 4 razones.
And we just talked about them. Results which exist at the same time of their cause don't exist.
Resultados que existen al mismo momento que sus causas no existen.
Excuse me, do not grow. Let me say it again. Results which exist at the same time of their cause do not
Su
grow.
causa no crece.
Okay. And you can prove that. When does the seed become the sprout?
Cuando la semilla se convierte en brote.
Because you can keep analyzing it, you'll never find the beginning or the end of the sprout.
Porque
Or the
puedes
beginning of
seguir
the end of the
analizándolo
seed.
y nunca encontrarás ese momento.
So that's the first reason.
Esta es la primera razón.
So the results that exist at the same time of their cause don't grow.
Momentos que existen en el mismo momento.
Results and
Causa.
causes,
No crecen.
results that don't exist at the time of their cause
Los resultados no existen en el
don't
mismo
grow either.
momento que sus causas. Tampoco crecen.
Because they never touch.
Porque nunca se tocan.
All right. The third one, excuse me, is results that both do and don't exist at the time of their causes don't grow either.
Que
We have to think about that one. Just write it down. Results that do and do not exist at the time of their causes.
y no existen en el mismo momento que sus causas no crecen.
How can something exist and not exist at the same time?
Como algo puede existir y no existir al mismo tiempo.
And then the fourth one is
Y el cuarto es
results that are not any of those other ones don't grow either.
los resultados que no son ninguno de los 3 tipos anteriores tampoco crecen.
So cause and effect, when they touch each other, they
Cuando
can't
causa y
grow.
efecto se
When
tocan,
they're separate,
no pueden
they
crecer.
don't grow.
Separados, tampoco
When
crecen.
they're touching and not touching, they don't grow.
Cuando se tocan y no se tocan,
And then
pueden
when
crecer.
none of those situations exist, of course they don't grow in an ultimate way either.
Cuando es de ninguna de estas situaciones,
Yeah, we did
tampoco.
question number 1. Moving on. Okay.
Esa es la pregunta número 1.
Just write it down and think about it. So in this discussion, we're actually trying to refute, what we're trying to get at here is.
En esta discusión estamos tratando de refutar. Lo que estamos tratando de hacer aquí es, ¿cómo decir esto?
There's different points of view of how people believe the world
Puntos de vista
works.
diferentes sobre cómo el mundo funciona realmente.
Those points of view
Estos puntos de vista
typically when you have a worldview, they have different
Realmente
types of
tienes
questions that get
una visión
answered.
del mundo,
And if you
tienen
came
preguntas.
to the Nagarjuna retreat, it was the very last class.
Si
There
vienes
are
al
9
al
basic
retiro de
questions
Nagarjuna, fue la última
that a
clase.
worldview, a belief system tries to answer.
Hay preguntas que los sistemas de creencias
They
tratan de
try to
responder.
answer, well, where was I before I got here? Where do I go after I've been here?
¿Dónde estaba antes de llegar acá y dónde voy?
They're asking questions about the darkness before we arrived and the darkness after we
Se
leave.
preguntan sobre la
We don't seem to have
oscuridad
access to those
antes
things.
de estar aquí y la que viene después.
So you start asking these types of questions. And so
Comienza a preguntar este tipo de preguntas.
so what Shantideva is doing here is he's
Lo
actually
que está haciendo aquí es, de hecho,
trying to cancel out
de cancelar
other belief systems so
otros
we can
sistemas
get
que
at an understanding of the way things are. And those belief systems
podamos
are
lograr un
in
entendimiento
many
de cómo
ways
realmente son las cosas.
very helpful for us, right? And someone could argue, well, this is a belief system too,
Son muy
right?
útiles,
And you
¿verdad?
got to sort it out, right? But there's 2 main groups that Shantideva is trying to say, hey guys, the
Hay
way
dos
you think the world is doesn't make
cosas
sense.
de-
So the first group, this is question 2. The
Ok,
first group is called the
las cosas
numeralist
en las
group,
que ustedes ven en el mundo no tiene sentido.
which
La forma.
is where most of our minds are.
Es como
Most
la
of the
mayoría
time,
de nuestras mentes
they
son, la mayoría.
believe that the results
Y ellas creen
exist
que
at the time of the
los
causes.
existen al momento de las causas.
And they'll say, and it's not dumb. This is the thing is like, they're
No,
not
no,
dumb points of view.
tonto.
And they say, which is very interesting, they say
Y ellos dicen algo muy
the
interesante.
cause and the results
Dicen la
exist at
causa
the
y
same
la
time,
existen al mismo tiempo,
but the only way you can determine those causes and results
pero la
is
única forma que
through the
puedes
act of growing
causa-
itself.
eso, esas causas y resultados es a través del acto de crecer en sí
And it's
mismo.
an interesting question because it says
Y es una pregunta interesante
we
porque
can't know what the causes and results are. We only can
saber
analyze them and
las causas
understand
y
them
resultados.
afterwards. As something grows, we can then observe that the seed created the sprout.
A medida que algo crece,
Right? You put someone gives you 10 objects, you don't know what they are. And you're like, I wonder what these do. I'm going to throw them on the ground.
voy a preguntarme lo que
The
esto
person
significa,
who
¿no?
discovered
Arrojaré en el
farming,
suelo.
the first human being that discovered
El
farming,
primer ser humano que descubrió la agricultura.
kind of imagine
Ya puedo imaginarlo, es
they find these plants and they're like, oh, look,
vio
if
estas
I
plantas,
put this thing in water,
si puso estas cosas en agua,
it kind of expands and it's a delicious food. Let's call it rice.
y
Right?
es
And so
una
every day
comida deliciosa.
they're
Llamémoslo arroz.
harvesting rice from these plants, right? And there's not a lot of it.
Y
And then
estaban-
one day,
está
you know,
este arroz.
you
No hay
ask
mucho
your
para
little
ir.
kid who's with you, hold on to the bowl of rice, and we're going to go back home because you want to teach kids how to do things.
Niño
And the
con
kid falls, and the bowl of rice falls all over the ground.
un puñado de arroz, se le
And then,
cayó
of course, you
y
get mad at the kid, and then, you know, I can't believe you did that. And you try to pick up
le
the
dijo, no
few
puedo
pieces
creer
of
que
rice
hagas
you
eso.
have.
Se
And you
molestó.
don't get all of them because a lot of them are covered in dirt now. And then 3 months later, you come
Luego,
back and you see a rice plant.
tú
And then you
vuelves y
realize, oh,
plantarlos y te das cuenta,
I know
oh,
how to make more of these. I put some of these that I've picked, I put them in the ground and I can make more of
hacer
them.
más de esto.
Right?
Lo
So
pongo en
then
el
you're
suelo, lo
understanding that
tierra,
there's some
y
kind of
sale más.
seed that creates a rice plant,
Entonces así es como
right? It gets
pensamos.
demonstrated, and this is
Las
what
semillas.
science is mainly based on. It gets demonstrated that that thing becomes that
Luego
thing.
demostrado
Put
que
the seed in the ground
la
and it
cosa
becomes a
se
rice
volvió
plant.
la otra
Yay.
cosa. Pon una semilla en el
Cause
suelo
and
y
effect.
planta
Put the
arroz.
seed in the
Sí,
ground,
es un hecho.
put some water on it, you put some sunlight
Pones
on
la
it,
semilla en
you
el
put the right
suelo, pones
temperature on
agua,
it. You know,
temperatura,
no one comes
luz
by
del
and
sol.
steps on it too much. And then all of a sudden you have a seedling, then you have a sprout, and then you got some leaves, and then you got
brote y
plants,
después
and you got
tengo
roses.
planta y hojas y arroz.
And then you think that's cause and effect.
Así es principalmente como funciona la ciencia. Y luego tú piensas que eso es causa y efecto.
Right? So we're denying that point of view. The second point of view
Negando ese punto de vista.
are the lower Buddhist schools, the three lower schools,
Las escuelas
which
budistas bajas,
basically
las tres,
says, okay, now that we've understood that there's something wrong with that point of view,
que dicen básicamente,
that
ahora
we've
que hemos entendido que hay un punto
this
de
is what
vista equivocado,
philosophers do, right? You just established that something grew after the fact
y algo
of its growth.
crece
And the philosopher goes,
después del
foul
hecho,
ball, right? From soccer, like throws a yellow flag on the field, right? Calls a penalty.
como en el
It's like, no,
fútbol, cuando
how
levantan
did it grow?
etiqueta
You're establishing
amarilla,
growth by the thing
se
you've
supera.
observed changing.
¿Cómo puedes decir que algo
And then the
crece
Buddhists come in and say, well, yeah, actually, it's not quite like
algo
that.
y que
But the
está
lower
caminando?
three schools, which we're not going to do today,
Las escuelas
basically
bajas dicen que básicamente
start getting us on the path of understanding how things become things,
comienza a
but they
llevar
make it
al
safer
camino
for
de
your
cómo
mind.
las cosas se convierten en cosas, en otras cosas, y luego anda
What
al
do you mean by
estado
safer,
mental
Tim? They make it safer for your mind
que lo
to
hacen
start letting go of self-existence,
salvo para
something
tu
out there by itself on its own.
es como decir
For example, the
y de su
pen.
propio lado,
Let's tell the pen story.
el
Let me
lápiz.
get a pen. All right. I got your object here. Here we go, right?
Ok, tiene
What
el
is
top.
this?
¿Qué es esto?
It's a pen, right?
Un lápiz.
Then we do the chew toy thing. Okay, doggy, come in. Kitty, where are you? Okay, it's a chew toy.
Llamemos
Right?
a un perrito y
Listen
un
very carefully.
juguete para mascar.
I take this
Escuchen
thing
cuidadosamente.
and I put it
Como
down
esta cosa,
on the
lo
table
pongo en la mesa
and I walk out of the room. All the dogs, all the humans, they all leave. And in that moment,
los perritos salen de la
nobody's
habitación.
in the room. What is
No,
it?
nadie está en la habitación. ¿Qué es?
What is it?
En ese
And
momento, ¿qué es?
normally we say nothing yet.
Normalmente diríamos nada aún.
For $100, what's the self-existence of this description?
Por $100, ¿cuál es la autoexistencia de esta descripción?
Yes, Yasheng. It's the thing. I said there's a thing on the table.
The thing.
This round object,
Esta es
this
una cosa,
brown and cylinder shape
esta
is
cosa
on the table.
cilíndrica está en la mesa.
And I say, it's on the table. Everybody walks out of the room, all dogs. What is
Ya
it
la
in that
mesa,
moment?
todo
I don't
está
know. Oh, then the
afuera.
human walks
En ese
in and
momento,
scans
no
the
sé.
room and goes, it's a pen,
Y
right?
todos ingresan y dicen, el
And
humano
then we
es
go through the whole process of saying, well, what creates a pen? It's coming from me.
Vas a través de todo el proceso y
How do
dices,
you plant the seed for pens?
es
We
un
start
lápiz,
talking about how to
viene de mí,
give pens to others, help people with communication, whatever. Right?
darle
Then
lápiz
all of
a
the other
otros.
things flow from there. You're like, well,
Las
why
cosas
do I
vienen
see it
de
as a
mí.
pen? Does the pen come this way or does the pen come this way?
El lápiz
And
viene de
everyone
mí
goes, oh,
o
Tim, it
viene de...
comes this way, right?
Y así
There's
llegamos
something
aquí,
about me
debe venir de
that
este
makes
lado.
this a pen, and there's something about a dog that makes it a chew toy.
Algo que me hace a mí
Great.
ver un lápiz
And
y
then we
al
say, well, how do
perrito
I?
un
And then
juguete
we
para
say,
mascar.
well, there's something in your mind that creates that. How do you get
Entonces
that thing
decimos
in
que
your
hay algo en
mind?
tu mente que te hace
Get
crear
it?
eso.
That thing in your mind,
La cosa en tu
the
mente,
seed.
la
Oh, you
semilla,
need to plant the seed. Oh, I need to plant a seed.
o necesitas plantar una semilla.
Okay, great. So I plant the seed by giving pens, by
Planta
giving,
una semilla dando lápices,
helping people communicate better. I don't know, whatever a pen does for you.
ayudando a las personas a comunicarse mejor.
And then
Lo
that
que
seed
se crea
grows,
el
and that
lápiz.
seed becomes more pens.
Y esa semilla se crece
Get
y
what
se
you want.
convierte en más lápices.
Like if you want to see certain
Si
things in
quieres
the world, stop doing the things
en el
you
mundo,
don't like and start doing the things you do like. Plant the seed.
Comienza a hacer cosas que te
And we're all
gustan.
like, yay, we're planting seeds, which is true. Okay. But you missed it.
Planta las semillas.
You missed it
Ok, sí, estamos plantando la semilla, pero te lo pierdes.
because it's safer for your mind to think that there's a thing already there on the
Porque
table,
las cosas están
waiting to become something when you come in the room.
allí, en ese
You
momento,
add
esperando
the
hacer
last
algo.
part. Your seed opens up and goes
No
pen.
estás fuera de la habitación.
And that is what creates a whole pen.
En
And that
realidad,
understanding is enough
proyecta.
to have
Bueno,
deep experiences about emptiness.
falta
But
esa
there
parte,
wasn't a thing on the table.
que no era una cosa
There
en
was
la mesa.
never a thing on the table.
Nunca hubo una cosa en la mesa.
Right? You want to think that there's a thing there, that then your little seed opens up in your mind and goes, oh, that's a pen, yay.
Tú quieres pensar
Right?
que hay
That's
algo
how it
allí.
works mainly. And that's why we teach it that way, because it's mainly that way. And it's mainly enough to get you into having deep experiences about
Una
emptiness.
semilla se abrió y viste un lápiz y es
But
principalmente como sucede,
mainly doesn't mean the whole story.
pero principalmente no quiere decir la historia completa.
And so when we teach the pen,
Entonces,
there is
cuando
a bit of self-existence in it.
hay un poco de
Slower middle way.
autoexistencia en él,
And it feels safer.
y
But
se siente
it
más
gets you
seguro,
really close. You see.
pero te
So
viaja
each of the Buddhist schools get
cada
you
una de las
closer and closer
escuelas
to
budistas. Se va acercando y acercando cada vez más a
get you closer and closer to understanding that the thing that you think you're seeing
entendiendo
is
que la
not the
cosa que
thing.
tú piensas que estás viendo no es
There was never a thing there.
una cosa, nunca fue una cosa
It can't
allí.
be there. It couldn't have been there. Well, Tim,
No
there's an
puede.
object on the table. Well, fine.
Oh, Tim,
But
eso
who's
hay
making
un
that
objeto en la mesa.
object before
Ok,
it becomes a pen?
bien.
You're seeing a round cylinder. Okay, great. Now I'm seeing brown. Okay, great.
Viendo algo antes que un lápiz y
But those are parts, and each of those
algo
parts have
serio.
parts, and each of those parts come together
Tiene
in parts to
partes.
create an object.
Y cómo esas partes se
And once it became object, it became a
para
pen.
convertirse en un
After it
objeto,
became an object.
y de un objeto para convertirse en un lápiz,
You want
después
to
de
find something that was there
ser un objeto.
before it became a pen for you.
Pensaste que había un objeto
When
allí
you start
antes
analyzing it, you realize that
no
there
que
wasn't
sea un
anything there
un lápiz para
in
ti,
the way you thought it was.
en el sentido en que tú pensabas que
So
era.
the Buddhist schools
No
bring
era
us
así.
to a point, they use
Las budistas nos van acercando a un
something that's
punto en el que
there from its own
hay
side
algo y es de su
to
propio
then
lado,
rip apart and say, oh,
y van
I'm not seeing this the
el
way I
problema
thought I was
hasta
seeing it.
decir que
The analysis goes on forever. The
no
analysis is not emptiness either.
viene de nosotros. El análisis
But those things are,
tiene su
but they're
propia
useful
verdad,
tools. That's the thing. It doesn't mean don't do the analysis. It
pero
doesn't mean don't think about it. It's a useful
son
tool.
útiles. Y no quiere decir que no hagas el análisis.
So we already did number 3, but I'm going to do it in a
Ya
slightly
hicimos el
different
número
way.
3, pero voy a hacerlo de un modo distinto.
Is if you Shantideva gives another reason why
Sí. Shantideva da otra razón de por
causes
qué.
cannot give rise to a result when they exist at the same time.
De por qué
The questions in the chat, I'm going to let you guys figure out. The answer is not entirely. Okay. So
la pregunta en el chat. Lo siento, no escuché la pregunta, pero es la pregunta número 3 de la tarea.
something happens when we look at
Algo
things
sucede cuando miramos las cosas
is that somehow we believe that they're unchanging.
y que nos hace creer que son no
And
cambiantes.
you can convince yourself that you believe it's changing
Puedes
because
convencer a
the
ti mismo
roses
son
on
no
my table
cambiantes
over there,
porque la rosa está en mi mesa allí
they've lasted
y ha durado
like a week and a half at this point.
una semana y media en este punto.
I'm not sure what's going on.
No sé qué
Doesn't
está
last that long,
sucediendo.
but it's kind of weird.
No
Maybe they're
dura
lasting this long to teach us something.
en
But they
general.
think that you take it as something that's unchanging, even if over
Entonces,
time you
como,
see it
como
changes.
algo que
There's something about
es cambiante, ¿sabes?
if
Como,
things existed by themselves on their own, from their
aunque
own
la vida
side, they would
cambie,
be unchanging. And a changing thing cannot affect an unchanging thing, or a changing thing cannot become an unchanging thing.
una cosa no cambiante no puede volverse una cosa cambiante.
Hope you translators don't have a headache yet. And this is another way to get at emptiness.
Esa es otra forma de llegar a la vacuidad.
If something is unchanging, it can never create anything else.
Si algo es no cambiante, no podría jamás crear algo
It
más.
can't create something else. Why? Because it's not doing anything. Something that is unchanging doesn't do anything.
Algo que es no cambiante
If
no
it
hace
doesn't
nada.
do anything,
Si no
it
hace
can't
nada,
create anything.
no puede crear nada.
So it could never move anything. It could never change the energy of
No
something. It
podría
could never create anything.
mover nada, no podría mover la
And
energía hacia algo.
conversely, a
No
changing
podría
thing
nada.
cannot create an unchanging thing.
Y inversamente, una cosa
A
cambiante no puede
changing
crear una
thing
cosa no cambiante.
can't do something to then create
Cambiante no puede
something
hacer algo,
unchanging.
crear algo no
It
cambiante.
doesn't make any sense,
No hace ningún sentido. No tiene sentido.
right? So Shantideva is like, look,
Shantideva dice, mira,
nor could, so he also says, well, look,
bien decimos, ok, mira,
not even a million kinds of causes can make an unchanging
mira,
thing become a changing thing.
millón de casos puede hacer que una cosa no cambiante se convierta en algo
Nor
cambiante.
could anything stay unchanging, nor
Si
can
algo
it be a mixture of changing and unchanging.
permanecer no
And that's
cambiante,
what you think. Like you think there's a mixture of changing and unchangingness. Your soul,
pensamos que hay
you don't disagree that
matices de
you get
cosas no
old,
cambiantes y cambiantes.
but you feel like there's an unchanging aspect of Constanza or Janet or Tim.
Tú sabes que pensamos que hay un aspecto no cambiante de Timo o
So all
Constanza.
of these things aren't dumb. They're pointing out the way that we think.
Entonces, se trata de que estamos pensando. ¿Sabe?
And the main point is somehow
La
we think
idea de
the
estas
result
cosas,
has a nature of its own, and we take
la
it
idea
that
de
way, and then it
que
cancels
tienen
out
una
all
naturaleza
the other
propia
causes.
y
So
cancelamos
you
la.
need to catch your mind in the trap
Entonces, tenemos la mente
and
atrapada en
then
una trampa
hold it there.
y nos
Because
quedamos
when
allí.
you cancel what you thought was there,
Porque cuando cancelamos lo que estaba allí,
you're left with nothing.
porque nos
And it's there
quedamos
from its
con nada.
own side. You're not left with no you. And
Nos
this is
quedamos
and this is again
nada
another place that people get to in
que
their
venga desde su
practice
propio lado.
is they think that they're canceling themselves. And then this primordial, like
Es
deep
primordial,
fear arises that I'm going to lose me.
un miedo profundo.
Like that's the main thing is
Me voy
you
a
think you're
perder a
going to
mí.
lose yourself
Piensas que te vas a perder a ti mismo,
by seeing emptiness directly.
persiguiendo la vacuidad directamente.
And when you get to that experience,
Y cuando llegues a esa experiencia,
it pops you out of the meditation. It pops you out of it. Because then you're like, oh God, where am I? And then you start like,
te va a
like,
sacar de la
yeah,
meditación.
I'm okay, right?
Lo podría
I'm still
hacer.
here.
Porque hoy, ¿dónde
No, but it's
estoy?
a real experience that happens to a lot of
Digo
people.
acá.
And if you're doing it well and you're doing it correctly, you
Si lo haces bien, si lo haces
probably will have
correctamente,
that experience.
puedes tener esa experiencia.
But somehow you accept that you do change, but there's a part of you that is unchanging.
Pero de algún modo
And
tú
that's what you
aceptas,
need to deny.
cambias, pero en algún sentido piensas
And when you
pero
deny it
no
well
cambias.
enough, then you see emptiness directly.
Y tienes que saberlo muy bien para poder percibir la acuidad
And then
directamente.
this same argument applies for
El mismo argumento aplica para
things that
las cosas que
um, things that can't stop. You know,
no pueden detenerse,
things don't stop from any nature of their own. They don't start from any nature of their own,
no
right?
se detienen
They don't
desde
grow from any nature of their own. You find
desde
that all
su-
of these things
piensas en todas estas
follow the
cosas
same logic.
que siguen la misma lógica. Todas estas cosas siguen la misma lógica.
Okay, so
Ok,
how do we navigate all of these things? All right, this is a lot of philosophy. This is a lot of things, right?
son muchas filosofías, son muchas cosas.
How do we navigate it? How do we apply it?
¿Cómo navegamos? ¿Cómo aplicarlo?
You may have had an experience where you're like, oh, I kind of understand this. And what I said was, you walk out the door and you forget it because
Quizás
your
tengas
old
una experiencia
understandings come out.
y dices, lo entiendo,
And then you
pero
have to battle, right? You have to battle with your misunderstandings.
tienes que
You have
batallar
to
con
battle with them.
el
And so
entendimiento.
what these philosophies teach us is how to engage the battle, how
Y
to,
los filósofos nos
you know,
enseñan cómo
how to be a warrior while you have things going on.
cómo ser un guerrero para descubrir qué está sucediendo
And
realmente.
then how do you not let your emotions take control so much that you can't use them in your practice? So
¿Cómo podemos
where
usar
we
estas
end up
cosas
getting
en nuestra
to is
práctica?
that,
A lo que voy es
yes, we
que
want to stop our negative emotions
queremos detener nuestras emociones negativas,
and we want to bring them to an end.
queremos llevarlas a un fin.
But it's not something you can force. A,
No es
you
algo que
can't
puedas
just say,
forzar.
stop being an asshole, Tim. Okay.
Puedes decir, deja
You
de
can't
ser un
force that.
idiota, tío. No puedes forzarlo.
Nor does willpower really do it. So how do we
Así que
get at
¿cómo
it? So one of the ways,
salimos de eso?
so
Una de
you
las
walk out
maneras
you walk out and
es
you have a negative emotion,
salir afuera y
or
ya
you have
tienes
a
una
desire for
emoción
something,
negativa y tienes
like
un
I
deseo
desire
por algo,
breakfast, or I desire a different president, or whatever it is.
deseo de desayuno.
And basically
Y básicamente
this is one of the key practices,
esta es una de las prácticas principales, claves.
is that,
Es que
hold on a second here. So there's, when you have a desire for something,
cuando tienes deseo por algo,
there's three objects, like there's three elements.
hay tres
One
elementos.
is the object that you want.
El objeto que tú
I want
deseas,
pizza. I want
quiero
a
pizza,
partner. I want a different president. Whatever your
compañero,
affliction of the day is.
compañera.
Right?
Quiero.
The first thing is the object that you want.
El primero es el objeto que tú
The
deseas.
second thing is
El segundo es
the person who's feeling it, right? I'm the
la
one
persona que lo
feeling it.
está sintiendo.
Right?
Yo estoy
There's the
sintiendo.
object towards which I'm feeling,
Eso, hay un
the
objeto al
feeling
que
that
lo
I
estoy
have
sintiendo,
of
el
desire,
sentimiento que tengo, el deseo,
and the acts that I do to get it. Right? So it's actually more like, right? The object, the
y el
person that's
tercero,
feeling it, and then the acting towards it. Previously, we talked about this in
el actuar hacia ello.
the elements of giving, right? The
El
giver,
acto de hacerlo,
the
de
gift,
desear.
and the act of giving.
Lo
Okay.
vimos con el acto del dar.
Now we're applying it to our desire.
Ahora lo aplicamos al deseo. ¿Cierto? El dar, el acto de dar,
And each of those three
¿cierto? Que
things
está
have an
a quién
emptiness
se
in
lo
them.
da. Perdón, a la persona a quien se lo das. El acto de dar y quién da.
So each one of those
Cada uno de estos
are like the pen.
son como el lápiz.
The person, the feeling of desire,
La persona, el
the
sentimiento,
object,
el
and
deseo,
the
el
things you
objeto,
do to get it.
y las cosas que haces para conseguirlo.
Each of those things have an emptiness of their own.
Cada una de estas cosas tiene su propia vacuidad.
So this is how you can use your negative emotions
Así como puedes
as a
usar
path,
tus emociones negativas como un camino.
right? You don't just stop being angry. You just don't stop being upset. All of those things. It doesn't matter.
No si
Like,
simplemente
those things are
terminas.
already going. But if you can have enough training to then stop yourself and say, oh, well, what's going on here? Well, there's a me who wants that thing. There's a thing out there that I want, and there's the act of getting it. So this is where like the 4 steps come in.
Así que aquí es donde
Because we
los
say, well,
cuatro
I want
pasos
to get this.
vienen.
Okay, great.
Dices,
What are
quiero
the
esto.
things you have to do to get that?
Ok,
Do you
ya.
steal it? Well, that's a bad seed. Like that's kind of a bad seed, right? Do you hurt somebody else to get it? Well, that's kind of a bad seed. All of these things, or you understand how all of those things become the thing that you want it to become.
Todas las cosas se vuelven
So
algo
then you do the 4 steps.
que
All right,
se
I want a
vuelvan.
partner. What? It's something similar.
Entonces hacemos los 4 pasos, ¿cierto?
I need to go help lonely people.
Es
Okay,
un
so I go help lonely
compañero,
people. Right, so I can plant the
hay que
seeds for
acompañar
companionship.
a las personas solitarias.
So then you're doing 2 things. You're breaking the cycle of ignorance
Así que romper
by
el
helping
ciclo de la
somebody else.
ignorancia, ayudando a alguien
You're
más.
breaking the cycle by giving
Estás
what it
rompiéndolo,
is that you want to someone else
dando
first in
lo
a
que tú
similar way.
quieres a otro primero.
But the giving itself also has an emptiness.
Pero el dar en sí mismo también tiene vacuidad.
There is no gift that doesn't come from your seeds. The act of
Dar
giving or the
que no
desire to
venga de
give
tus
or the
semillas.
person who receives the gift, those are all coming from your seeds too.
Las personas que reciben el regalo,
So
todos
if you were
tienen su
to
propia vacuidad.
use the 4 steps and just do 4 steps and don't think about any of these things,
Así que usa los 4
will you
pasos,
get the results?
puedes obtener resultados.
Yes, you have to get the result.
Si tienes que obtener resultados.
But if you put those understandings in it while you're doing it,
Pero si pones tu entendimiento
even
en
if
ello,
you're still seeing it
mientras lo estás
incorrectly, but you're
haciendo,
intellectualizing it in a way where you go, oh, there's some
intelectualmente lo pones en una manera
self-existence going on. I think there's a person out there on their own that I'm going to give them
que piensen que
some kind of self-existent gift.
levemente que existe
And you can
autoexistencia
start
allá afuera de la
playing
persona.
with those
Y
boundaries of how you see things.
en estas fronteras, como ves
Then
las
you're
cosas,
planting
límites.
incredibly powerful seeds. And in fact, the results that come from that, what don't come from their own side,
Increíbles
will come
resultados.
faster, will arrive faster,
De hecho,
will arrive more
los
powerfully,
resultados
including
llegarán
wisdom
más rápido
that one needs to be able to push themselves over the edge.
para llegar, para empujarte hacia tus límites y
And so
las metas.
we've heard these examples oftentimes. We've heard that,
Escuchamos
oh,
esto.
there's no difference between nirvana
Ok, la
and
diferencia
the
entre
suffering cycle of life. Like
y
they're the same.
el nirvana y el ciclo de sufrimiento son lo mismo.
There's no difference between reaching nirvana and not reaching nirvana.
No hay diferencia entre alcanzar el nirvana, lograr el nirvana
To
y
me,
no
there
alcanzar.
seems like a huge difference, honestly.
Pero me
Right?
parece como una gran diferencia,
One is
honestamente.
where you have negative emotions which plague you all day long, and the other one you don't.
Emociones negativas todo el
But if
día.
you understand the why, they're
¿Por
not
qué?
different. There is no difference. What is that
No hay ninguna
non-difference?
diferencia.
Right. The non-difference is that
Ok,
both of them are empty of any
consiste en
self-nature.
que no hay
That's why they're the same. That's why
naturaleza
there's
propia,
nothing to reach for.
no
There's no
tienen
eyes, no
naturaleza,
nose, no mouth,
por eso son lo mismo.
right? What's the difference between a mouth and a not mouth?
¿Cuál es la
Right?
diferencia entre una boca y una no boca?
It's both coming from you. And that's
Los
how
dos vienen
everything
de
is the same. And that's why
y
everything
todo
looks
es lo mismo.
different to different beings.
Todo es
And that's why
distinto
nirvana, there
para
is no
un
place to
ser.
go. That's why seeing emptiness directly is not an achievement.
Eso es porque percibir directamente la vacuidad no es un
It's not something you
logro,
achieve.
no es algo que
Your
tú alcances,
perceptions shift.
tu percepción cambia.
And what shifts, how do we create those shifts? That's what it really is. Because you can have nirvana anywhere.
¿Cómo creamos?
Your paradise could be anywhere.
Porque si,
It's not like you
si
go up into the sky and
alcanzamos
you're like a little
el
angel
nirvana, tu
hanging out,
paraíso
like
podría estar en
looking
cualquier
down,
lado.
right?
No es que llegamos al
I
cielo
found paradise. No, it's right where you are.
y digas, oh, llegué al
See?
paraíso. No, es exactamente donde
And
estás.
so there's nothing to achieve when you see emptiness directly.
Entonces, no hay nada que lograr
Or trying
para
to
percibir
now, does
directamente la
that mean
vacuidad.
don't try? That's not what I said. Damn it, try hard.
Estoy diciendo,
Study hard. Come
no
to classes.
intenten.
Thank you,
No es lo que
63
dije.
people.
Inténtalo.
62, because I'm one of them.
Inténtalo con
Thank
esfuerzo.
yourself for coming to class. 63. Right? You're trying to
Inténtalo.
tear
Como
down the
cuando
limits of your
63 personas que
knowledge and your understanding, and how does it become possible to have knowledge in the first place?
usa tu conocimiento y piensa cómo fue posible tener este conocimiento en
so-
primer lugar. Luego, entonces,
That's why it would be possible
eso es porque es posible
to change things, because
cambiar las
if
cosas.
everything has emptiness,
Pero si todo tiene vacuidad,
which we call natural nirvana, everything has emptiness,
lo
then
llamamos nirvana natural, ¿cierto?
anything would be possible. It is
Todo es
possible for
posible.
us to reach our own kind of personal nirvana, or reach
Es posible
total
para
nirvana,
nosotros alcanzar nuestro nirvana personal,
because including ourselves have emptiness, including our minds have
porque
emptiness,
incluidos nosotros
you
tenemos,
have emptiness.
nuestras mentes tenemos vacuidad, ustedes tienen
And
vacuidad.
then when you start getting deeper into it,
Y cuando
that's
vamos
when
más
all the
en
fun
ello,
starts.
ahí
Because
comienza
what are you
la
trying to
diversión,
change? Are you trying to change the world, or are you trying to change you?
porque estás tratando de cambiar el
No, I want
mundo,
a
o
bank
tratando de
account.
cambiarte a ti.
I don't like who won for president this time, but I want a different president next time.
El presidente de esta
Oh,
ocasión.
really? That's nice.
Ok, really.
Why did,
Eso
are you
es
trying to
bueno.
change the outer objects, or are you trying to change you?
Estás tratando de cambiar objetos
Because if
externos.
you're a dog, you
tratando de
see a
cambiarte a ti.
pen. Excuse me, you see a chew toy. If you're a human,
Porque
you see
si un perro es un
a
juguete
pen.
para morder y un humano es un
If
lápiz,
you're a tantric deity, you see
es una
a
deidad
bliss stick.
tántrica, es un palito de dicha.
So what are you trying to change?
¿Qué estás tratando de cambiar?
Right? And so the questions become much more profound.
Así que las preguntas se vuelven más profundas.
And if you see pain in the world,
Si ves dolor en el
right,
mundo,
how do you change that?
¿cómo
Does
cambiar
that
eso?
mean you don't go help people suffering? No, it's not what I said.
Eso significa
Does
que
that mean that I should sit in my house all by
no
myself
te
all day
importa.
long and meditate
No, no es lo
myself
que dije.
to enlightenment? Maybe, but that's not what I'm saying either.
Que me siente a sentar y pensar en el deseo de la iluminación. Quizás, pero no es lo que quiero decir tampoco.
Understand how you become you, and then if you're a different you have a different world.
Entiende cómo tú te vuelves tú.
You'll see different people in that world. You'll see
Si te
different
puedes
things
cambiar a ti,
going on in that
puedes
world.
cambiar
Whether
el
you
mundo.
like that world or not,
Si te gusta el mundo o no,
that's really your seeds.
esas son realmente tus semillas.
Why is 50% of America happy right now and 50% of America not happy right now?
Que está la mitad de los americanos
Oh,
felices
sorry,
ahora y la mitad no.
50.1% are happy and 49.9% are unhappy. Whatever. Right?
51% y 49%
One
infelices.
person won, one person didn't win.
Una persona ganó
And
y
the
una
cycle of
persona no
suffering
ganó.
goes on. rinse and repeat.
el círculo de sufrimiento continual.
In 4 years, we'll do it again. Hopefully. You see, so, what is it that you change? And what changes? And that's the important question. What is it? What is the thing that changes? And then the way this class ends is, what is the best way to understand these ideas?
¿Cuál es la mejor manera de entender estas ideas?
And I think it's a really beautiful place to end the class.
Y creo que es un lugar muy hermoso para terminar esta clase.
Is, you need someone who can teach you these things.
Tú necesitas a
You
alguien
need
que te
someone
enseñe
who can
estas cosas.
explain it to you.
Necesitas a alguien que te las explique.
And if you understand it just sort of naturally, probably because you had someone explain it to you in a past life, probably. But how do you get to that understanding of emptiness? Is you need someone to.
Pero ¿cómo entender la vacuidad? Si necesitas. O sea, si estás aquí probablemente porque en una vida anterior las estuviste estudiando.
You need to request
Pero ahora tú necesitas
blessings from your teacher,
las bendiciones de tu maestro, un profesor.
who, by the way,
¿Quién?
is not self-existent.
No es,
There is no teacher that was there anyway.
no es un maestro o profesor que esté desde su propio lado. De todas maneras,
Right?
viene de ti. ¿Cierto?
You're asking somebody for their help who wasn't there to begin with.
Por su ayuda, que no era alguien autoexistente.
And that's the way that you can understand it.
Y esa es la manera en que puedes entenderlo.
Yay! Have a great day, everyone.
Tengan un buen día
Find your
todos.
teacher. Good job. Good luck.
Encuentren un profesor,
Maybe you
un
have the seeds
maestro.
for it. Maybe you
Buena
don't.
suerte.
How do you get the seeds for it?
¿Cómo obtener las semillas para aquello?
Right? That's a question. How do you get the seeds to have somebody
Es la
listen
pregunta.
to you? Someone who helps you. Someone who ultimately helps you.
Poner las semillas para
Why?
alguien que te ayude, alguien que te ayude en un
How
sentido
do you
último.
get the seeds for that?
¿Cómo obtener
If
las
you can
semillas para
focus
eso?
on those things,
Si te puedes enfocar en esas cosas,
then maybe the question of
quizás las
the
preguntas
500-year aria has
de
a
los 500
completely
años
different
de
meaning.
un área se
The aria that only appears
eh,
every 500 years.
tengan un
Maybe there's something else going
para
on.
interpretar de un modo distinto.
So have a great day, everybody. Happy,
Así que tengan un buen día a todos.
I don't know, Wednesday,
Este miércoles
6th of November. Stick
6 de
around
noviembre.
for some more meditation instruction from Pabonka Rinpoche in a half an hour.
Quédense
And if
más sobre
you're not
las
able to attend that,
meditaciones
have a
de
great day.
Yudhira
We'll
Pabonka
see you
Rinpoche.
next week.
Instrucciones en
Happy
una
Wednesday.
media hora más. Nos vemos
Say
en
goodbye to everybody, please.
nos vemos el próximo miércoles.
Thank
Diga,
you.
salúdense entre todos.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. Thank you, teacher.
Cảm ơn thầy.
Thank you.
Mulțumesc, la revedere!
Thank you. Pipin.